Okay, let us start. Kayena vacha chittena madena maya katang achayang kamame bante buri panya tatakata kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achayang kamame dhamma sanditika akalika kayena vacha chittena pamadena maya katang achayang kamame sangha supatipana anuttara sa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang saranang gacchami. Dhammang saranang gacchami. Sanghang saranang gacchami. Tisarana gamanang paripunang panatipata veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Adina dana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Abrahmacharya veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Musavada veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Surameraya majjapamadatthana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Vikala bhojana veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Nacha Gita Vadita Visuka Dasana Malaganda Vilepana Dharana Mandana Vibhusanatthana Veramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Uchasayana Mahasayana Veramani Sikkhapadang Samadhiyami. Idang me silang Magapala Nyanasa Pachayo Hotu Appamadena Sampadeta Sadhu. Right. Let us do some guided karuna before we start the Dhamma talk. Now relax the body. Keep all our thoughts, our plans, thinking, memories, put it all aside. Keep the mind open, calm, peaceful, present. Let the body relax from top of the head, down to the forehead and face, to the neck and shoulders, arms, chest, all the stomach area, spine, back, to the buttocks, the hips, the thighs, to the knees, calves, soles, toes. Relax the whole body, keeping the mind calm and peaceful. Whatever mental suffering I'm going through, may it be anxiety, anger, jealousy, and so on. May I be free from all this mental suffering. Whatever physical suffering I'm going through, aches and pains, illness, diseases, may I be free from all this physical suffering. Whatever suffering I go through from day to day, seeking out for a living, striving, responsibility, may I be free from all this suffering. Whatever suffering due to the cycle of birth and rebirth, through, through illness, old age, death and rebirth, may I to be free from all this suffering. Let us expand. Let us reach out to all beings around here, monks or nuns, fellow yogis, to all the helpers, volunteers, workers, supporters, donors, to all the guardian devas of this center, to all other devas around here. To all the petas, to all the unfortunate beings, and to all the animals, big or small, far or near. May all of us here, whatever mental suffering we are going through, may we all be free from all this suffering. Whatever physical suffering that we are going through, may all this suffering, may we be free from all this suffering. And whatever suffering due to living from day to day, may we all too be free from all this suffering. And whatever suffering due to the cycle of birth and rebirth, may we all too be free from all this suffering. Whatever mental suffering we are going through, may all be free from all this suffering. Whatever physical suffering we are going through, may we all too be free from all this suffering. Whatever suffering due to living from day to day, may we all to be free from all this suffering. And whatever suffering due to the cycle of birth and rebirth, may we all to be free from all this suffering. Now let us expand. Let us expand our compassion, reaching out to all the beings in this country. May they be humans or non-humans. May they be devas or petas. May they be animals big or small, far or near, seen or unseen. Whatever mental suffering that they are going through, may they be free from all their suffering. Whatever physical pain diseases, may they be free from all their physical suffering. Whatever suffering due to living from day to day, seeking for a living, seeking for food, seeking for shelter, may they all be free from all their suffering. And whatever suffering due to the cycle of birth and rebirth, may they too be free from all their suffering. Now let us expand. Let us expand our compassion to all the beings in this world. May they be our loved ones, near or far away, or those people whom we do not know wherever they are. And to those whom we dislike or those who dislike us. To all the guardian devas of the Buddha Sasana. To all other devas residing in this world. To all the unfortunate beings. And to all the animals, big or small, seen or unseen, far or near. May all beings in this world without exception, whatever mental suffering they are going through, may they all be free from all their suffering. Whatever physical suffering they are going through, may they be free from all their suffering. And whatever suffering due to living from day to day, may they too be free from all their suffering. And whatever suffering due to the cycle of the samsara, may they too be free from all this suffering. May all beings in this world able to live in peace and not in war. Live with kindness and compassion and not in cruelty or violence. Let us expand. Let us expand our compassion without boundary, without exception, to all beings in this universe or universes, to all beings from the highest planes of existence down to the lowest plane of existence. To all the beings on all the world systems. Whatever mental suffering that they are going through, May they be free from all their suffering. Whatever fear, sadness, anger, may they be free from all their mental suffering. Whatever physical suffering due to aches, due to sickness, illnesses, may they too be free from all their physical suffering. And whatever suffering due to living from day to day, may they too be free from all their suffering. And whatever suffering due to the cycle of birth and rebirth, due to old age, sickness, death, and rebirth, may all beings be free from all their suffering. May all beings be free from all their suffering. May all beings be free from all their suffering. And slowly let go. Slowly we let go of the compassion. We bring the mind back to the present moment. The rising, falling of the abdomen, to the body, the sensation. Then we can slowly open our eyes. All right. So yesterday we were talking about the what? Restlessness. Yes. We were talking about the restlessness. Yeah? Then with this restlessness, as I said, they can be very persistent. They can be very problematic because they can come again and again, and they come and they come. They can come a lot. So because of that, we have to learn to manage them. We have to learn to take them as a meditation object. Rather than just thinking of them as disturbances, although they are. But the moment that we start to think of them as disturbances, usually at the behind of our mind is already we dislike them. Because they are part of nature, mental nature. So we have to learn to accept them. So I have to learn to accept them as they are. But because they are a hindrance, they are hindrances, then we have to overcome them. We still need to overcome them. It's the only thing in the whole Vipassana we overcome is the hindrances, nothing else. Everything has to be noted again and again. We don't overcome the pain. Pain is not the problem. What is your problem? It's the dislike towards the pain. It's the anger towards the pain, the impatience towards the pain. That's the problem. That's the root causes. Those are the root causes for all these things. But a lot of times when we meditate, the yogi tends to overcome the pain, not the anger, not the dislike, because they cannot see that. So we don't overcome rising, falling. We don't overcome any other things. Yeah? We watch them as they are. We watch them, they changes, sometimes they fade away. But in the hindrances, although we accept them, but we have to note them too. We have to see them as they are, pay attention to them, see how they change. It's getting stronger, getting more, getting less. Sometimes, as I said yesterday, when we want to overcome them, you have to note them. You note them as thinking, or planning. But this time when you note them, then we bring in the tranquility also. That is to say, when you are mindful, you are alert of them, at the same time, you soften the noting, or you slow down the labeling process also. When you slow it down slightly a little bit, then you begin to arouse a little bit of tranquility that comes together with the noting mind, together with the mindfulness. So it's a softer type of noting whenever we deal with this type of agitated type of mind. Yeah. Usually this type of way of how we, just now I mentioned, usually it is not good for a beginner meditator. Beginner meditators, this way we should not try. Better don't try it too much. A little bit here and there, not a problem. Because if you're a beginner, then mindfulness is not strong yet. Mindfulness is not strong, and you try to look into the mind, especially with this type of thoughts and arises, they tend to swallow you in. They tend to drown you in rather than you note them. So it's only when you come to some degree of mindfulness, when the mindfulness is a bit more stronger, then we begin to pay attention to its characteristic. That means you go face to face with the agitated type of mind. Then the time you can actually see the true nature of how they change, arises, passes away. They're getting more, getting less. They go from one after another and so on. You truly sit back and truly pay attention to them, as if like they are just another object of noticing. And you notice them clearly, although your mind is gentle at this time. If you are able to do it, let's say you have already done some retreats and then you know more or less, you know that the mindfulness has been coming up and the mind is quite clear, quite alert. So once in a while you try that and say, I'm not going to guarantee you every time it's going to work, but at least a good try. But when you are more developed type of yogis, then it's more a different story. Because every time it comes in, the restlessness is there, then all they need to do is just pay attention to them, and that's it. All these thoughts already fade off. It starts to fading, starts to very quickly, it's just gone. Or sometimes you just notice it, it's going to come, it's already gone. This is where things, when this happens, then the concentration on the mindfulness or the effort turns into not just from faculty, but it becomes like power. We gotta, there are Pachindriya, the five faculties, and the Panchapala. It's not like turning, It's more like because you are stronger at this time, then all the defilements of the mind is prevented from coming in. Yeah, it prevented from coming in. That means you are noting. You know that the thoughts are going to come up, but it cannot penetrate into it. You know that it cannot cannot penetrate into the thinking. Sometimes like you're sitting, noting, and then you hear sound, something that you know, but the mind does not fall into its thinking and to fall into its content, fall into thinking about what is it, who is talking, and so on. The mind is protected and just stay with the object of meditation. So that one, it's good. Yeah, that one is good. You don't have, so that one, the mind is quite strong. So it can be done, not to say cannot be done. Meditate more, meditate more. But more means you need more time. But time is not on your side, unfortunately for a lot of you. Anyway, so yesterday, so as I mentioned, you pay attention to it. Now you see it, because the way of vipassana is to see them face to face, see them, their true nature, how they changes. The thoughts, when you pay attention to them, they are there. You don't get attached to them. You don't identify with them, whether this is you or whether this is your so and so, your loved ones or your enemy, and so on. They are just mental creation. Yeah? All these are mental creation. So you don't identify with them. So the moment you identify with them, this is me, this is you, this is them, this is who they are, then we can fall into it. So you begin to pull back and you let see the thoughts passing one after another, one after another. Sometimes you may see that the thoughts getting less, sometimes getting more, sometimes it changes quite fast here and there. And when you're able to notice that, it means you are noticing the characteristic of the agitation. So sometimes, as I said, the agitation does not come only as just agitation, but sometimes it comes with emotional states like greed, like sometimes comes with anger, sometimes comes with impatience, sometimes comes with very confused state of mind, sometimes comes with skeptical doubt. Whichever that it comes in, then you notice it. You notice it like fear. Sadness. You truly pay attention to them. And that would be good. Normally, with this type of agitation, with this type of emotional states, a lot of us, we have all this phobia here and there. Some people, they see the chicha only, just now was just in front here, The lizard, whole body, whole mind panic already. Whole face become white. See the chicha only. Or sometimes you see the rat. Some of you maybe see a snake. Yeah, kaki lembek. Emotional state, all this style of phobia, a lot of us have. And sometimes see charging also. You see the charging didn't do you anything. This is a small little thing, but the sweat all come out. You see a spider also. All these things. What do you phobia? What do you have? A lot of us have a lot of all this phobia. Yeah. You see, this type of phobia, perhaps maybe you brought it back from your past life. We do not know. Or it maybe could be this life, perhaps when you're young, maybe who knows, the snake come and touch your leg, and then suddenly you get so much phobia. Yeah. Here, at least now, the female part, the female quarters, you have all the mosquito netting and so on. Last time in the 30 years ago, maybe 20 plus years ago, no mosquito netting. So one time they was meditating, and then the snake came in, and then they went into the hand here and coiled around there. They meditate. See that time, how much phobia, or you're going to be mindful. You cannot move that time. You have to sit super straight, which is a real story, it's not a fake sort of snake. At least the men's side also you have mosquito net. Even you got mosquito net, make sure that whenever you sit down, you make sure that the net is all like tucked in underneath your cushion. so, so you see, sometimes because of that, sometimes because of that, certain phobia arises. Yeah. And a lot of times, like for example, maybe we've seen people, you have certain problems, certain incidents somewhere, and then you promise yourself you're not going to go there anymore. Out of anger or out of phobia or out of fear. But the place has changed, but the perception of those things is still very lodged, very strongly inside us. Yeah. Sometimes due to anger, as I said, sometimes due to fear. And all these things springs up, and and a lot of times, if we all are not careful, these things springs into a lot of anxiety, spring into mental health issue. We don't see these things as sometimes especially lay people, we don't see this thing as sometimes as something is a mental defect, it's a mental health issue. Although you look at it small, although it doesn't affect your everyday life, but these type of things can spring up into much more stronger in certain parts of our life, during certain parts of in our life. You can be a person who can be very pleasant, nice, everyday, ongoing, and live life happily, go on with your work and so on. But then sometimes when certain death in the family arises, then the whole personality changes. Then the whole person, the whole character change from a very cheerful, this one, and then turns into kind of like depressed, anxiety, fear, and so on. Because the very much they dependent, the person or the situation or the things that they are dependent on is no more there, is changed. So this type of state of mind arises. And it becomes a problem. So some of us may not have that type of problem so strongly, but we still have it. So the moment you come into the retreat, that is going to spring up. Because that time, you got nothing else to do. You only walk and sit only, and eat and sleep. That is where it's going to spring up. And all that emotional states that you hold on to if you do not know, in your everyday life, you do not know how to let go of them, even let go of them partially, or more or less, it doesn't affect you, then not too bad. But sometimes these type of things affect the yogis quite a lot. But then and they affect the lay people quite a lot. But then after that, of course, they got other things to do, work to do, other things. Then they said of like, forget about it, they forget about it. But then after that, when they come to retreat time, nothing else to do, then this type of things springs up. And it spring up and it's going to become very emotional. Or not only just emotional, sometimes fear, sometimes anxiety. It really creates havoc during in the meditation. Once in a while, some yogis cannot take it, then more or less they have to go back. Yeah? For those people who want to stay long one in the retreat now, then actually a lot of all your worldly things, we should not be attached to it too much. Even people also. We have responsibility to our parents and family and so on. Yes, not to say that we don't. But inside the mind, we must learn to let go of the attachment, but not the responsibility. Responsibility is one thing, attachment is another thing. You do your responsibility, but mentally you're not so attached. That is something hard to do because we as a this one we mix everything up. Responsibility and attachment is all tightly woven together. Uh, so before you're able to deal with this type of emotional states, that means a lot that you have to do when you out there, not here. Uh, Sometimes you give talk, when I hear talks about letting go and don't get too attached and things like that, which is good because it reminds us not to attach. Because when you truly want to develop the mind, this attachment is going to pull you back. Yeah? Uh, but nevertheless, since you are here, if these things come up, what are we going to do? Cry? Huh? Become fearful all the time and let it eat into us, and then after that we pack our bags and go back? That is not the solution, because the next retreat you come back again, the same thing is going to spring up again. So might as well we learn to overcome them. We learn to overcome them. Now this is where tranquility, concentration, or equanimity will become very helpful, because all those type of state of mind, they are very agitated state of mind. Uh, uh, Now, what can we do? What can we do with this state of mind when it comes up during in the retreat? We keep all the one that you are supposed to do out there one. That one is you have to do lah. But here we have to take notice of it. Now, let's say you meditate and then fear arises. Let's say fear arises. Strong type of fear arises. Then the fear that arises, it could be because some of us, some of us may be quite afraid of. Here, not too bad. At least got some yogis around. But sometimes yogis tend to dwindle a little bit. Sometimes just 1% or 2% or 3% only. Then when you don't feel anybody around, you dare not meditate also. Sometimes even the room so big, they dare not even go in also. No, no. You're supposed to be a yogi, supposed to face all the fear, but cannot. Afraid of sometimes all the imaginative type of ghosts or whatever. Even you real one or fake one also. Every now and then, talking about this spiritual, not spiritual, I'm talking about the unseen beings. Every now and then, all these yogis, they don't talk about their meditation, but they like to talk about all these unseen beings. They make you fear. They make you tell you, they hear this meditation center kui la, this meditation center got hantu la, this one got toyo la, this one you can see them run here and there. Every meditation center, they got their own story one. and and a lot of these yogis and a lot of these devotees, they dare not come. If they don't have the kawan to come together, they don't come alone because they're afraid of all this type of thing. So the moment they meditate only, they need some lights on everywhere. A bit dark, tabule, fear already. No. There's so much, how much fear that they have of all these things, and they don't realize that it is affecting their mental development. It's affecting their mental development. So, so let's say you're mindful at this time. You're sitting right now, and then this type of fear arises. It arises because it's very habitual to you. The moment it springs up, it's going to starts to bloom immediately, and all the thoughts and on all the agitation will starts to going on and on and on. So this time you must learn to face them again and again. I know it's going to be hard, but the outcome later on will be much more better. Will be much more better. But the first thing is how to watch them. Here, if you can, one of the ways before even you note them is to firm up your confidence. That means you firm up your confidence. That means either your confidence to the teachings of the Buddha, the teachings of the Buddha or the Dhamma and the Sangha. As if like you're going to sit there, you're going to plug it there and you're not going to move, imaginary, like, you're going to plug it there and then you're not going to move there, you're going to reaffirm it. This is on the reflection side only, you're not even noting yet. So you firm up the mind first. You firm up the mind to really pay attention to it. Yeah. So after that, what you should do, you go face the fear. Go face that fear again and again. Fear, 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 fear. Firmly, notice it firmly. Notice it firmly. And that time when you can see your mind is truly agitated, really run like mad. All kinds of imagination, it springs up. You got to learn to face it. Many times you're going to fail. That's the problem. You're not going to win the battle yet. You're going to fail. But you're going to fail, you're going to get up and do whatever. After that, another time it comes in again. Again, you firm up your confidence and pay attention to it again. Pay attention to it. Again, you pay attention to it again and again and again and again. Until your mind able to settle that thoughts down. Settle the thoughts. Not only sometimes settle the thoughts, but it begins to settle the fear also together with the thoughts. Sometimes the thoughts and the fear fades together. Yeah? Or sometimes the thoughts are still there, but the fear getting less and less and less. You know that it is not as strong as before, but the thoughts can still be there. Isn't it interesting? Because the thoughts are still there because of all this imagination that we have been created in our past. It's going to come back again and again. That imagination doesn't mean that it's going to go away anytime soon. But the fear, if you're mindful, then the fear will start to take over. It will start to take over the fear. And then later on, you do it again and again. When the mindfulness starts to develop, then this type of fear will slowly becomes less and less and less. When it becomes less, and later on, when this type of thoughts are still there, then there's no fear. Yeah, that means the thoughts are still there, but the fear is no more there. That means you have already changed the your cause of your karma or your mental karma. Because every time that thought of thoughts arises, every time certain situation arises, every time darkness coming in, every time alone coming in, alone is there, immediately the fear arises. But this time, situation is still there, darkness is still there, thoughts, that type of thoughts is still there, but the fear is no more there. So it begins to heal. So that's why this type of strong state of mind, you got to pay attention to them. So the moment that you're able to notice them, the fear begins to lessen and lessen and lessen and lessen and lessen. And then this type of thoughts, the habitual thoughts are, because it loses its grip already, and in the future, this type of thoughts will slowly and slowly, it disappears also. It doesn't come because the root has already changed. Uh, uh, Even it comes again, not much fear anymore. Uh, uh, or even like sadness, also the same thing. A lot of us have this sadness due to somebody pass away or due to something. Then a very strong attachment is there. The same thing also it happened. The same thing when vipassana is overcoming it, then again you firm the mind, pay attention to that sadness. You're going to see your loved ones many ways and so on. Then still the same thing, pay attention to the thoughts again and again and again and again. Even at that time, the tears is going to come out. Then you got to wipe, then meditates again. Then meditate, it will come out again, and wipe some more, then meditate some more. Until later on, then there's not much tears anymore. There's memory of it, not to say that you forget, but those memory does not affect you anymore because you pay attention to it. So the agitation of the mind begin to lessen. And then when it become lessened, the fear or the sadness begins to become very little. Not to say you're completely healed, but it's so much more manageable. So much more manageable. Yeah. Even your phobia or your fear towards the cacing lah, snakes lah, and everything, that also becomes less also. Yeah. Last time here, there's no Sima Hall here in many, many, many years ago. There's no Sima Hall here. Last time, first time I came here, after a week or so, I walked to the garden. I mean, a bush, more like a bush, not a garden. Oh, I saw a monitor lizard. I saw it enough. I turned back already. Because we live in the city, we don't see all this thing. Sometimes they just run, they're just looking for food around here, they just walk around. It's sometimes huge one, they come in. Like a small little crocodile, They're still sometimes around here and there. So if you're not used to it, your whole mind became very shaky. So a lot of fear can arise. So as I said, the moment you learn to confront your fear with mindfulness, then there's time that you learn to settle the mind down with the mindfulness, and you learn to settle it down. And then the mindfulness takes over the thoughts, then the fear starts to become less. A lot of healing process is taking place in this way. In the world out there, you have to pay to heal the mind, isn't it? You have to pay big money if you do this mindfulness type of causes, to overcome certain fear, overcome certain anxiety, overcome whatever lah. Nowadays, uh, mindfulness and uh, study also got. Mindfulness and exam also have. Mindfulness and giving birth also have. Mindfulness and what? Mindfulness and everything. Anything. They can associate with anything. Anything you got some problem. And even if you're a CEO, or they hire one mindfulness to help them to become more present, to become more this one, to become more, so that they can able to focus on whatever their job as this one. So every one of you qualify. Sure. No job, can apply all these things. For qualified. So this is big money. But Vipassana also, this is one of the things that it overcomes. A lot of our fear and a lot of our anger, it begins to overcome. Sometimes a lot of skeletons in the closets, a skeleton in the heart, inside there, all the secrets and so on. Then sometimes you try to suppress them over time. Once in a while, this style spring out, but you face them with mindfulness, face them with tranquility, face them with concentrations, calmness, equanimity, then they begin to settle. So a lot of healing take place on actually. So don't underestimate. We think that we come here just to a lot of pain, a lot of all this thinking and so on. We think that we are not doing anything, but actually a lot of things is happening inside us. But the thing is that you must have more and more mindfulness you arouse. The more mindfulness that you arouse, next time that this type of fear or sadness or anxiety comes in, because of the mindfulness is strong, it just overcome them much more faster manner. So the more mindfulness you have, the better it is. So all you need to do, you have a strong mindfulness. So whenever this type of anxiety pops up, you have a strong mindfulness to overcome them, to overcome those fear, those sadness. So it become quite interesting. You begin to see that your character and the nature how you respond to a lot of things begin to, you begin to much more at ease in life. So life is happier. If not, you still hold on to those burden, mental burden so strongly, when we don't realize that it is something that we can do even within this vipassana. But my caution is, don't go and ask somebody who already got so much fear, so much anxiety, so much like mental anxiety, and come and see me. I'm not a psychologist or physiologist or whatever. I'm just a meditation instructor only. I'm not your doctor. So for those who are in online also, don't come and all these things. You know that sometimes we don't have all this much of a strong problem, but whenever it comes up, it really affects our mind. So with that already, we have a hard time to overcome them already. So hopefully, when we are mentally ill, then we need to have certain proper care, mental care, mental doctor. I mean, we have a proper psychologist and so on. Uh, uh, so, what else? Okay, we come back to that agitation again. So we pay attention to whatever nature that it comes in, all the emotional states and the agitation, and we see how they change. And when you notice them, they are the way of how we pay attention to vipassana. Okay, this is one thing. Another way, what we can do when the mind is restless, agitated. Another way is to don't go too direct on the object itself. Okay, don't go too direct on the object itself. And one way is to divert the mind out from the object to another object, so that use another object to build the mindfulness from the background. And then because the mindfulness is building up from the background, then these things begin to pull aside, yeah? And begin to overcome the whole agitation. So what do I mean by this? This is connected with our sitting touching, or even with our in-breath, out-breath, or even with our rising and falling. Yeah? So let's say at this time, your mind is agitated. A lot of thinking coming in, a lot of thinking and restless mind coming in at this time. So what do you do? Yeah. So you're not thinking, planning, but after that, you learn to gently pull the mind down to the body. Yeah. Pull it down, that means pull your attention down to the in breath, out breath, let's say, or to the rising and falling. Actually, in breath, out breath, this time works better. For my experience, this time it works better. Because your mind is so agitated already. So in breath, out breath has a nature where it begins to calm the mind compared to a rising and falling, has more calm nature. So because of its calm nature, yeah, then what you do is that uh, you notice the thinking, you bring it to in breath, out breath. When you bring back to the in breath, out breath, this time it's just in, out, in, out. Then it will go into thinking, sadness, fear, thinking, and then pull it back gently back again. In breath, out breath, in breath, out breath. And then you go back again. It's still very noisy, and then pull it back again. Then go to and fro, 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 until the mindfulness begins to develop from the in breath, out breath. Then you begin to notice that the in breath, out breath, you can stay with the in breath, out breath for a longer period of time compared to the earlier part. That means you can stay with it. That means the calmness and the concentration starts to build up in this at this time. So until you begin to pull the mind away from the attention to the in breath, out breath, again and again, until you can able to sustain on the in breath, out breath. So you could begin to sustain on the in breath, out breath at this time, then stay there for a while. Let the mind truly calm down first. But stay with alertness. Stay with alertness, stay with mindfulness with the in breath, out breath. Until the mind calms down, then you find that there's no more thinking and all the agitation all gone. And then here you bring it back to the rising and falling. Then once you bring back to the rising and falling, you label it, gently take note of it, pay attention to all the sensation, pulling, and so on. Then the mindfulness starts to build up. Then the investigation of nature starts to build up again. This is how we cool it down. We cool the thinking. That's one way. Or if you want to use the rising falling, if let's say the rising falling is clear at that time, then this time again, gently you pull the mind out from the thoughts into the rising and falling. But this time when you notice the rising and falling, you don't try to notice it very strongly. It's more like a gentle rise and fall, gentle noting. The gentle noting is to bring in the calmness, peacefulness together with the mindfulness. So you have to pull it down, then it goes into thinking, pull it down, go and thinking, pull it down, go and thinking, to and fro, until the mind able to settle with the rising and falling. Once you're able to settle with the rising and falling for a longer period of time, if the agitation starts to begin to fade off, or becomes in the background, doesn't affect you too much, then slowly begin to pay attention to the rising and falling a little bit more clearer. Also possible. Same principle also if you want to use sitting and touching. You have to find a spot, or you have to find one area where the touching or the sitting, it's clear to you. It's clear to you. Say, for example, let's say the touch, it's strong. The touch is strong right now. Then um, agitating, thinking, agitation, desire or fear, then bring it down. Touching, thinking, touching. At the same time, while you're noticing the touching, you try to notice it, the sensation for a little bit more longer, and also pick up a few other sensations, not just one or two, three or four, Try to pick up a number of things if you can able to notice that. If you cannot, then notice the buttock if you can. If cannot, notice the other buttock. Or sometimes you can notice the whole body sitting. Scan it down. Thinking, then scan the whole body. Thinking, and scan the whole body. Just to divert the mind out. The whole purpose is to divert the mind out so that it goes to another object and use another object to build up the mindfulness. Belakang lah, you call it a direct way lah. But it's still a valid way of vipassana doing because we don't have to see it too directly onto the object itself. So to build up that mindfulness, because the mindfulness build up from the background, then the agitation of mind begins to calm down. So that is one way of doing it. Another way of doing it. Now, this time you have to be truly non-identified with yourself, especially with yourself. Truly not identified with it. This time, you see, when the agitation comes in, let's say agitation comes in, then let's say your hands and your arms begins to tighten because of, or sometimes it begins to fidget, becomes to tighten or very cramped and so on. Your job is not to loosen all this cramming and everything on. Your job is just to see them as they are. That is to say, you notice the mind is a lot of agitation right now. At the same time, you also notice that your hands are all very tight and very tense. You must learn to let it be. You must not quickly try to relax the whole thing. Because once you relax the whole thing, you're not seeing things as they are already. Because the tightness and the thinking and agitation, they are all connected. They are all interdependent. They are all cause and effect. They are all dependent origination. This type of thing. Because here, when we begin to notice all these type of thoughts that arises, then this time you must not say that my body is beginning to tight right now. You just have to know that tightness, thinking, agitation, tightness, pulling, this thing is coming in. You take notice of it. You notice that if your body starts to fidget a little bit, not there, you also like somebody like sitting in outside and then you begin to observe how the body is moving. Although that little tiny movement is all because connected with the mind and body. You understand what I mean? Because they are part of the whole process. So most of the time as a yogi, we tend to loosen everything. Too tight cannot, must relax a bit. Okay, let's start again. Thinking. We are missing this part already. We are already missing the part already. So this is how another way we do it, because this one is truly you don't identify with yourself, as if like a person is out there and you watch all this sensation. It's happening in the body and how it relates to the mind. Even like, for example, you sit down there, agitation that comes together with the sadness, let's say, and then here the tears are all dripping everything. Your job is not to wipe it on. Even the snot all come out to the mouth. you you also don't move the hand and stay there and watch the whole thing, and then the sadness and then cry and then all these things coming in. Watch everything, every little single thing. But y'all cannot tahan. I heard y'all cannot. Oh. Y'all cannot tahan. That is how. That is how Dhammanupassana is being observed, this way. Although it looks very simple, because all our lives we do this way. Anytime that anything that's unpleasant to us, we try to shake it off already. We try to wipe it off everything, but we don't realize that it's all connected to the I. So your job as a vipassana meditator, if you really want to see all these things, sit there. If your tears come out, pay attention to the tears. Pay attention to the sadness that arises, the tears that arises, the whatever that this one, and pay attention to it. As I said, firm the mind there, or watch what is going on. Then this is how you begin to see the interrelation of what is going on. This is how we do Dhammanupassana. Chittanupassana is more like you notice the thoughts without noticing the body. You're noticing its anger arises. You note anger, you notice how it changes. You notice the agitation, you notice how the agitation arises, getting more, getting less, getting this way, that way, and then they fade off, they come again. Everything happen in the mind per se. But when you come at Dhammanupassana, you see a lot of interrelation of what is going on. Yeah. So the identity, the I there, you must able to put it aside. Yeah. This is something how a yogi pay attention to all these type of objects. Right? It's not easy, but my job is just to give you options. This one also can, this one also can, this one also can, this one also can. And if you're able to understand these type of things, what will happen is that perhaps this time you can only do one option today. But when your mindfulness getting stronger later on, your options begin to expand. You're able to know which one to choose, begin to expand. And that will be very good. Yeah, that will be very good. Because that time if that time you see a different ways of how to pay attention to the objects. So it's interesting. So it's interesting. So that is one a few ways already, even within the way of vipassana. Now, if we don't do vipassana, if we can use other skillful ways to overcome it also. But again here, when you use other ways, you don't really see their true nature, because you are completely forget about them. So either you abandon them or you prevent them from arising. But you cannot abandon them all the time, you cannot prevent them all the time. No matter what you do, it will still come up one way or another. So what can we do? Other ways to deal with this mental agitation. Then here, other ways is like the way of samatha. Samatha meditation, any form of samatha meditation, has the nature of calmness and tranquility or concentration as more prominent part. Whereas in the vipassana, it's the investigation, it's the noting mind that is, you investigate what is going on as the more prominent part. Whereas the samatha, the prominent one, is all the tranquility, calmness, and so on. Yeah. But behind those two is always mindfulness, right? They're always mindfulness. If you do it correctly, always the mindfulness as a foundation, But then if you want to go vipassana, the qualities of the mind is more towards the calm and peace. Whereas the vipassana is more towards investigation. You really know what is really going on, then it progresses. So therefore, the samatha meditation, whichever samatha meditation, if you are skillful at, perhaps if you are able to do metta, wonderful. Or the other three Brahma Viharas also is good. Or you can do Anapana, also is good. If you can do like 32 parts of the body, also is good. What else? You have kasinas also, if you can do those things, also is good. As a monk, I got all the time. So because I just try a little bit here and there. Over time also try ka liao lah. Not to say whether it's good or not good, that's another thing. But where any meditation you want to develop, make sure the mindfulness is there first. One is there, it's so much more easier to develop a lot of meditation. So that's why even I think last year we did a 1 month course online on metta, right? Some people quite disagree how I do the metta, because when you start the metta, I said you start off with mindfulness first. Don't start with metta first. Make sure that your mindfulness has built up sufficiently, then you will see the metta comes up better. If you don't have this one, then the metta is not going to be very clear and very strong. So the mindfulness is always comfort. So the walking sometimes, even with the walking, I say you do the mindfulness way of walking first. But you don't try to see changes, you're just lifting, pushing, dropping, or right step, left step, just to make sure that the mind is in the present moment. For walking, for beginning. Then only when you do your sitting meditation, you start off with some metta. With some metta. To get that you pull your mindfulness from your walking, you pull the mindfulness to your sitting. Then you build up the metta. Then when you get up again, when you do walking, then again you build up that mindfulness. Now after some time, when you do this way, as you build up that mindfulness, you see that the metta is getting stronger and stronger. Then that time, the walking, you slowly incorporate metta into it. Then once you incorporate metta into it, then sometimes partially mindfulness, partially metta, then until your whole mind can able to build up on the metta throughout the whole walking, throughout the whole sitting. That's how we build it up. Then when you build up in that way, you find that the metta is much more continuous, much more deeper, the mind much more calmer. And that is very helpful. So when the mind able to become more calmer, it truly settles the agitation away. Say for example, when you are in a lot of thinking mind, and you try to notice it's not so good. But then after, if let's say there's a part where it begins to soften a little bit, let's say, begin to soften a bit, and then your mindfulness is there because you are skillful, let's say in metta, let's say, the whole mind just switch over to metta. You switch over to metta, may I be free from harm and danger. And then you begin to feel it, and it's going to pull you back there into it. Then you pull it back to samatha again. To settle the whole mind with the metta, and then let it settle over there until the whole mind calm and clear, agitation over. Then after that, what do? Let go of the metta, come back to rising and falling. You see, there's so many ways that we can do. Yeah. All the things is only you creative enough lah. If you got the time inside there, there are many ways we can over to settle the mind. So this is one way how we use the samatha meditation. So those who have done like anapanasati in the past, there's not to say that it's all totally useless right now, You just put it as a side as part of your weapon. Part of your weapon. If this one cannot work, you try that one. That one cannot work, you try this one. Because you got so many in there. Uh, so those things that we learn up, then we try to remember them. So because especially when it comes to agitation, they can be very helpful. So as long as you don't get attached to all the calmness, because if you do metta and so on, the mind gets into calmness. As long as you don't attach to a calmness, the moment your mind is free from agitation, mindfulness comes up already, mind is clear, switch back to rising and falling, switch back to noticing all the sensation, then vipassana starts to move again. Yeah. And it's good actually. Sometimes with the metta and so on, the mind can be quite uh, much less agitation at times. Yeah? So this is something. Yeah, uh, we're going to look into it. This agitation some more, on Monday. Yeah? First, but tomorrow we have a Q&A session. So the questions is you put it there maybe about 3, maybe after lunch I collect it, or after 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock I'll collect another one, for those over here. But those in the online. Okay. So those on online, again, so you send your questions to Sister Hunling by 3 p.m. Let me see. Hold on. Hold on. Right. All right. I'll share the screen for those who. Let me share the screen. Yes. So your cutoff time is at 3 p.m. Saturday. Yeah? So again, here the question is more connected to the meditation, to the Dhamma talk, to some Dhamma. It all depends, but not to worldly type of things. So something like that. Okay. So what else? What else? Okay, that's it. All right, we share merits. Idang me bawanang nibbanasa pachayo hotu. May my mental cultivation be a condition for the realization of Nibbana. Imang no punya bagang sapa satanang dema. We share these merits with our departed ones, with all beings and all the devas. Sape sata suki hontu anumodantu. May all beings be happy. May they rejoice in these merits. Sadhu, 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 sadhu.